Welcome to CYF Spotlight, presented by the Farmington Hills Farmington Commission on Children, Youth, and Families. The Commission is a joint agency of the cities of Farmington Hills and Farmington. Its purpose is to foster a healthy community by focusing on our most precious resources, our children and our families. The Commission is made up of dedicated volunteers and community activists from all walks of life. Working together with other groups and agencies in the community, the Commission creates and promotes programs with one goal: to encourage a supportive environment where children, youth, and families are happy, healthy, educated, and safe, and have the opportunity to reach their full potential. The Commission is hosting this show to bring our focus and our activities to the community. We welcome your input and involvement. You can learn more about the Commission at our website at www.cyf.us. I'm Mary Mullison for the Farmington Hills Commission on Children, Youth, and Families, and this is CYF Spotlight. Welcome. Fast food is a mainstay of the American diet. In fact, in any given day, 1 of 4 of us fills our stomachs at a fast food restaurant. According to the National Center for Health Statistics, America is the fattest nation in the world, with 61% of adults and children weighing in at overweight or obese. On today's show, we're going to talk about family nutrition, and our guest is Lynne Golodner. Welcome, Lynne.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again.
You as well.
First of all, what are we talking about when we're talking about family nutrition as a topic?
Well, we're talking about what our families eat. It's not just dinner time when we hopefully are gathering around the table together, at least occasionally. It's what we pack in our lunches for school and work, adults as well as kids, what we eat to start the day, which we all know in every magazine and newspaper is the most important meal of the day, and it's the snacks that we eat too. We should be eating. A lot of people like to recommend 5 meals a day, so 5 smaller meals rather than 3 big meals and snacks here and there, and it's just fueling our bodies so that we're at optimum performance.
I think people tend to eat, perhaps, if you call each time you eat a meal, more than 5 times a day sometimes.
Probably, and it's usually in the height of afternoon. Wow, I'm really hungry. Oh, there's a vending machine. Let me grab something easy. Exactly. We have to, I think of family nutrition in terms of planning, because I'm guilty of it myself, but if I'm hungry at 3 or 4 in the afternoon and it just hits me and I'm not prepared and I'm not at home, I don't have an apple ready or a package of nuts or something that is better for me to choose from, and I'll just look around, and anywhere that I am on the road, if I can get something easily and quickly, chances are it's not that good for me, but it satisfies the hunger.
Probably. So whatever is closest then
Right.
is where we go for our nutrition, which is not always the best.
Right.
Why do you think families have gotten away from healthy eating? Obviously, if our country is so far away from being fit, we've gotten away from healthy eating. Why do you think that's so?
I think there are several factors. One is that we're very busy people. Our schedules are jam-packed. We're juggling lots of things: work, kids, extracurricular activities, school, family relationships, other relationships. So there's a lot to think about and a lot to plan for. We're also very sedentary. It used to be 50 years ago, or even less, we walked places. Our lives were more active. We felt comfortable as parents letting our kids play outside without really scrutinizing where they were and who they were with. We don't feel that comfort as much anymore in most parts of our country. So we keep tabs and a short leash on our kids. We don't just run around and infuse our days with activity. And that, of course, contributes to the weight problem. The food part of it is that, ironically, we have more choices than ever, and it's overwhelming, and we have less time. So how can we walk through a very packed supermarket and know what are the right selections? Before we had processed foods and manufactured foods, we bought foods close to the source and we made our own from scratch. That's always healthier. And now that everything is so convenient and packaged for us, we don't have to think, and it's hurting us.
So the convenience has pushed the health away from us a little bit, because it takes time to research what's good for us, to go to the places, to go to the sources for the
Right.
food. It takes a little bit of planning so that you're not just picking up something for tonight, today.
Right.
So that you can actually have a pantry. I think a lot of people don't have a stocked pantry that they can go into and pull a nice meal out of. It's more shopping specifically for a few things and picking up whatever looks good. I think sometimes when our manufacturers make things look so good, even making them look healthy, whether they're healthy or not, it puts us off track a little bit.
Absolutely. In other countries, especially in Europe, people buy their groceries daily at the local market, but they're usually in season, fresh, whatever is ripe and ready to eat. And there's a purpose for it, and their biggest meal of the day is usually the middle of the day, not the end of the day. So there was a great book a number of years ago, French Women Don't Get Fat, and I read it, and they drink wine, they eat cheese, they do all those things, but it's in moderation. It's not overdoing it, and everything is seasonally based, so they're getting the most nutrition and the most flavor and the most health for their bite. We don't really do that. We can have strawberries in December. They grow in Michigan in June. And so if we were eating close to the seasons, close to our local agriculture and what was healthy and full of nutrition, we'd be eating very differently than we are.
As you were speaking, I was thinking about how so many more healthful things in the produce department are available all year round.
Right.
So what you're saying is that if we eat things in season for our bodies where we are, then that's going to help. It doesn't matter to have the produce in the winter time when we get our Chilean whatever.
Well, that's a complicated question, and I don't think I'll give a definitive answer, but I'll tell you how I think about it, and I've done a lot of research about it. I weigh and measure what are the nutritional aspects of each food. So if I really want strawberries in December and they came from Mexico or they came from Australia, I have to think about how they were grown, when they were picked, how long it took them to get to me. And I often buy them because I want the flavor, and we're used to that immediate gratification. But the reality is that in order for a food that far away to be picked and stay ripe and not be damaged by the time it gets to us, it's picked before it's ripe, and it's usually preserved with chemicals. And if we're aware of that before we put it into our bodies, hopefully it makes us think a little bit. My kids and I spend most of our summer going to orchards locally. Now, of course, in Michigan, we can't do that during the year, but we can do that for about 6 months of the year, starting in June, going through the fall. We have a lot of wonderful, ripe produce. We're not only supporting our local industry, we are not causing the consumption of fossil fuels in order to get it to us. It's not that far. And we're eating what is good and ripe and fresh near us, as opposed to indulging our whims and maybe not gaining as much nutrition. It's really important to think about what the food contains before we eat it.
I think that's a hard part. That's, again, going back to taking the time to learn about things and about what's best for you. And we're not all nutritionists. We don't know exactly what's best for us. We know what we've been told, this is good for you, this is not good for you. I think sometimes, as what you were saying with the produce, strawberries are good for you. That's what we've been told always, but there are levels of good.
Well, also, I'm as guilty as the next person. We take the easy foods to eat. It is really easy to throw a package of strawberries in a colander, wash them, and cut them and eat them right there. Something like Swiss chard or kale. We know that the leafy green vegetables are really good for us, but we don't know what to do with them. And so they're there, and they're there year-round. A lot of times they're pretty local, but we don't know how to prepare them or how to eat them so that they taste good and they appeal to our senses. There's something else that we haven't even mentioned, is the cost of everything. Unfortunately, in my opinion, packaged foods and processed foods are very inexpensive. They're easily accessible, they're everywhere, and they lack a lot of nutritional content. The foods that are the quality that I look for, meats and chicken and fish that have no antibiotics, no hormones, no chemicals, they're expensive, they're hard to find,
much more, yes.
And so I always say, and this is really easy to say when you can afford it, that we pay somewhere, whether it's for the food or it's for the doctor bill down the road, but we don't always connect the two. So if I eat something today and tomorrow and the next day, and then 10 years from now, I have a weight condition that contributes to other health conditions, I'm not linking all the foods I ate years ago with my medical complications and the bills that result from it. But we do pay in some way for everything.
So there's some hidden things. You just have to know what's good for you and know what you can do personally too,
Sure.
because certain people are a little bit more able to carry different things.
Sure. We, in particular, this example came to mind. My extended family goes up north every summer, and my mom likes to plan meals for the whole family. It's a lot of people. So it's easy to go to a big box store and buy really inexpensive meats and sauces and things that we can feed a crowd. And I always hesitate. I don't want to be ungrateful. I don't want to add to the family's cost, but I don't like to eat meats, for example, that have antibiotics and hormones. So this year I offered to contribute the meat to the meal, and just made it one of my quirky things, not judging anybody else, but just saying, you know, you're giving us a wonderful vacation, let me take care of this, so then I can feel better about what my family is fed. But again, that decision comes with a desire to eat more vegetarian or non-meat based foods so that it offsets the cost. If we're eating meat every day and we want that antibiotic hormone-free meat, we're really paying for it.
So different members of the family eat differently as well.
Absolutely.
So how do you approach that as someone who wants to be healthful for your family, yet you're really busy, you're being pulled in 12 different ways? How do you accommodate an entire family with that thought?
Well, that's a tough question, because I don't know about your family, but in my family, not everybody likes the same foods. And I have one in particular who's rather particular about what he wants. And so I try to plan a balanced menu of meals for the week. I try to involve the kids in that. Sometimes I'm more successful than others, but I'll ask the kids, you know, you take Monday night, you take Wednesday night, and come up with some dishes that we can prepare. And often they help to prepare them, but they go through the recipe books and they choose the different dishes. That way I know at least one meal a week is going to have something that each child likes. But at every meal, I try to provide an array of items. So if I want vegetables on the table, sometimes I open a can of olives. I don't have to always cut and slice and dice. Sometimes it's a jar of pickles. Those are crowd pleasers. So somebody's going to always eat a vegetable if they're those types of vegetables. I always have some healthy bread available and fixings for sandwiches, so that if what I prepare is not to someone's liking, they can make themselves a sandwich, and at least I know that it's whole grain bread or has some good cheese or peanut butter or something that is a mainstay. That's how we do it.
So you're not acting as the short order cook. You know, hey, this person likes this and this person. I have 3 vegetarians and 2 meat eaters in my family,
wow.
so it tends to be a little bit of a what can go with this type thing. It adds a whole nother layer of complexity. I'm sure other families are like that too.
Absolutely. And the vegetarians obviously are not going to touch the meat, but sometimes the meat eaters are not going to touch the vegetarian dishes. I think it's about balance, and it's something that keeps coming up again and again in family discussions in general, striving for balance in ingredients, in the meals that are served. I have kids who would prefer pasta and pizza every day. And that's just not going to happen, but it'll happen sometimes. And so as long as it's there sometimes, there has to be a balance. And I think that's a good lesson for the family too, that our diets should be balanced, should have a variety of colors and quantities, and that we're not always going to have our favorite meal every time, but we will always be fed.
Another one to add to that perhaps is that it's okay occasionally to step elsewhere to have something to eat.
Yes.
You know, to actually go out and have something that maybe not the best for you, but as long as you don't restrict it so much, the kids tend to go toward where they've been restricted when they are set free.
Right.
So in learning how to do that, also having a little in moderation, some of the treats and things like that.
Oh, with everything.
Seems to work better.
Yeah, when you make something off limits, that's what they want.
Exactly.
And you know, it's expensive to take a family out to eat, so sometimes you're just going to the Coney Island, and that's okay. As long as it's not our mainstay to grab fast food because we're so overwhelmed, it's okay to indulge in that. It's
the whole speed thing, I think. We're going to soccer practice. We need to pick one up from here, take one to there. We have 20 minutes in between. And doing all the running around and stuff, okay, maybe our family has 20 minutes to eat. We don't have the time prior to that to cook and prepare a meal. Right. So how do you choose something on the road? Well, you know, I'm going to take it one step earlier, actually. I have a friend, they have 2 teenagers.
He and his wife, every Sunday, they cook together for the week. And they put things in the freezer if it's for later in the week. They happen to have an oven that you can set a timer. So they take it out of the freezer before they go to work in the morning, whether it's a lasagna or something like that. They put it in, they set the timer for, so that it's hot and bubbly at 5 o'clock when they get home. And so that 20-minute window, everybody gets fed. So that is an option, is if we're planning ahead. And I find it calms me down to cook because you can't rush it. Mm-hmm. It's the one thing I can't rush through if I want it to be successful and mm-hmm. edible. It's also something that my kids and I can get together over and bond over. So when we're preparing something, even if it's a salad, we can stand at the kitchen counter together and sample and snack as we're doing it and just talk a little bit. So a little bit of good planning on the weekend when we have some downtime can alleviate the need to grab on the go. But grabbing on the go has become easier because even places like Starbucks have healthier options. So if we're just looking and we're conscious of what we're choosing, there's always something with some vegetables in it or something a little bit healthier, a little whole grain as opposed to white flour. At most places, there are some healthy options. Even, as I mentioned, Coney Island restaurants before, they have a little healthy section, some cottage cheese or whatever's on the menu. Most restaurants today understand that we're looking for that, and they make it pretty easy to find it.
So it's a matter of choices. We come down to choices again, choices in what we're going to actually participate in, what we're actually going to do. Bringing the nutrition to your children through cooking, that's spending good quality family time together, teaching the kids about nutrition so that they can carry that on into their lives. How do you get them to eat Swiss chard, for instance? I mean, some of the things that we don't know how to cook, that we haven't had growing up, that we didn't bring from our mother's favorite recipe for Swiss chard.
Well,
in my family, there isn't one. So.
No, and my mom probably wouldn't know how to make it. It's not something we ever had. But there have been two ways I've found to be successful in inspiring my kids to try new foods. One is to just explore and not make it mandatory. So for example, we go to the farmer's market, and whenever there are samples, they just gravitate toward them and they try them. I don't even suggest it. And then they end up loving whatever it is. So, and sometimes that even happens when we go to big box stores on the weekend and they're sampling things. They could be prepared foods that we have never purchased, and because it's there for the offing, they take a taste and all of a sudden, oh, this is interesting, let's try it. So it happens in a lot of places, but farmers markets especially I've found to be really useful. Things like Swiss chard and those hardy greens that are supposedly so good for us but we don't know how to use, I throw them into soups, and then they're really soft and sort of, people don't notice them. And they just become part of the spoonful of lentil soup or chicken soup or whatever it is that I'm making. And and it's great to do that in the summer, put it in your freezer, and then come fall, you have those flavors that were fresh when you bought them, but you've preserved them in such a way that it feeds your family on a quick night. You just pull it out, throw it in the pot, and it's ready to go.
So it's a voyage of discovery for the children.
Sure, absolutely.
Something they've discovered rather than something you've said, here's something lovely and good for you.
Absolutely. I try never to say that. I try never to put rules on food because they always backfire against me. But just make a lot of things available and look attractive, because we eat with our eyes before we eat with our mouths, and hope for the best. And usually it works.
With the farmers markets being, luckily so many communities around here have farmers markets weekly through the summer.
Right.
Why is it so important to stay close to our source?
Well, there are environmental issues and there are health issues. A lot of people are concerned about the amount of fuel that's consumed to transport food halfway around the world for our indulgence. So that's one concern, just to protect our environment. Another is to support our local industry. That's really important, especially in an ailing economy. And of course, for nutrition's sake, anything that is ripe and right here and local has more nutrition, because we can get it at the last minute when it's ready to be picked, than if it has to be picked early so that it's not damaged en route. Farmers markets are a wonderful opportunity to see the vast array of options in our state. And actually, farmers markets are open through the end of October. Mm-hmm. Some, even Eastern Market and Royal Oak Farmers Market are available year-round because they're indoors. So, and I consider local to be probably about a 2 to 4 hour radius. So some parts of Canada are included in our local, And so there's just a wide variety of produce that we can get that's grown indoors, locally, and it's good for us year-round. So.
That also supports our economy, supports the people growing that, and
Right.
encourages the more healthy choices to be available for everyone.
Right, absolutely. It's also fun. Just stroll through and not be in a rush. And well, what do we find this week? And then let's find recipes that we can use this in. It's just kind of an adventure.
Again, a family activity, something
Yes.
that you can do together that's good for the family, all in all.
Right, absolutely.
Strolling through the farmer's market, different than strolling through the grocery store.
Oh, yes.
What pitfalls do you find in the grocery store?
Well, it's interesting. I learned a few years ago that it's important to shop the perimeter of the store before going up and down the aisles.
I've heard that.
And why do we do that? The perimeter is the produce section, the prepared, ready-to-eat foods that are made in the local kitchen of the store, fish, meat, dairy, and then the bakery. So that's the perimeter, and those are things that are pretty close to the root of the whole food, unadulterated, unprocessed. And then when we go up and down the aisles, we're finding boxed and canned goods, which of course we want, but we can be more selective. We've filled our cart with more nutritious items first, and then we can really be selective about what we pick in those other aisles.
To go with
Yes.
the healthy things that we've done. Do you
Yes.
shop with your children, or do you try to shop alone so that you don't have the influence?
I try to shop alone because I spend twice as much when I go with my kids. Can we please have this? Can we please have that? But sometimes they see things that they want to try, so that's useful as well. I love going to the grocery store. I find it to be a little bit of an adventure because cooking to me is an act of creation, and I can just sort of come up with new ideas. And I just find that it's a world of opportunity every single week. And so my husband and I like to do that together. It's just a little outing, and then we can be sharing that together and get new ideas. So I try to mainly go without them, but inevitably they end up coming along.
Probably so. That's one of my least favorite places to go. I like to cook as well, but it's just the whole barrage of everything.
Sure.
We're getting, okay, every package says this is healthy in some way, or, you know, low salt, low this, low everything, low whatever. They're playing to what we need to have.
Right.
And we know we do.
Right.
We've been told this all along. Most people know exactly how they should be eating.
Mm-hmm.
What about those messages that we're getting from the packages on the store?
Well, business is business, and marketing is important, and that's clever marketing for the businesses. That's what I would do if I were their marketing officer. But as a consumer, I have to be educated, and I have to know what is best for my family. And I need to know how to read between the lines. So if I stay away from processed and manufactured foods as much as I can, doesn't mean always, but if I read the labels of the items that I do choose to buy, and I know what I'm looking for, I'm not going to fall into traps. And I have found, you know, it's always tempting. If my kids want to make cookies, it's so easy to pull a mix off the shelf, but it's also really easy to make it from scratch. I have a great cookbook called How to Cook Everything. It's about 1,200 pages, and it truly is everything. So it has the basic cookie recipe and the basic pizza dough recipe and the basic everything you want to find. And if ever my kids want something spontaneous like that, I find I whip it open, it teaches me how to do it. It wasn't hard, and probably I saved money, and I didn't include any of the additives and preservatives that I really don't want my family eating. But there are times that canned and boxed items just make my life easier. And so I know the ones that I'm comfortable with, and I look for those brands, and I trust them because I've done my research, and I'm comfortable buying them.
So it gets down to education and research. You know what you need to have. You figure out what you can live with your family.
Right.
You teach your family the skills they need to know to move on into their own lives.
Sure.
And hopefully you've kept yourself out of the doctor's office, and you haven't provided yourself with the things that are bad for you, yet you've enjoyed good meals and family adventures. That's the whole picture, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I got all that?
You got it. Yes.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add? You know, where can families get more information? Because this is what we're trying to find out. We're trying to put it a little bit in one area so people can find this. They don't have to spend a lot of time looking around. Where
Sure.
are some of the places they can find?
Well, there's a lot of information out there. I think it's important just to be familiar with the latest version of the food pyramid, which I think is a food plate now. And just to sort of be aware of that. Good doctors always are a wealth of information. My doctor told me once that, and I love cheese, that cheese should be a seasoning, not a protein in my diet. I said, okay, and so it was just useful information to hear from him. But if you want to just do a search online and look for things about foods close to the source, I know that there was, when my kids were babies, there was an expert, Dr. Sears, who has a lot of books about family nutrition. Even if your kids aren't babies, his books are really evergreen. They just are full of good information that stand the test of time. Mm-hmm. So he's a good one. He has a great website. Dr. Weil is a great integrative medicine doctor who has a wealth of information online. And that's W-E-I-L, and he's not for profit, so just has impartial information. I wouldn't trust food companies because they have a vested interest. I would look for the medical information that helps guide us toward good nutrition.
So making better choices and helping your family be healthier.
Yes.
That's the whole focus of it.
That's the goal.
Was there anything else you wanted to add?
I don't think so. I think this is a great topic to put out there because it's important for all of us, and it can be fun too. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. That's
a great way to put it. So feed your families healthier and enjoy life a little bit more at the same time.
Share the exploration. It's not a test. It's life. Life is a journey, right?
Mm-hmm. And a discovery.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Lynne Golodner, we thank you for joining us yet again, and we appreciate all your time and all your effort put into this topic.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us for CYF Spotlight. We hope to see you again.